Say you're a Latin learner and you want to do writing practice either because you want to become a good creative writer in Latin as part of your goals, or because you just want to reinforce and own what you've learned in the language. A lot of people will say to you, here's a ready-made solution, work through a prose composition course. And what you're going to get is this.
Translate these sentences into Latin.
Number 1. I have been elected consul by the votes of the Roman people. You are favored by the enemies of the human race. Number 2. The town had now been blockaded for 3 days. It was taken by assault on the 4th day. Number 3. I sent 3 messengers to you in the month of January. Which, on the face of it, looks like it would help your writing skills if you could stand how soul-destroying and dry the task is. I've been teaching Latin at high school level for over 5 years, years 7 to 12, and I found that pretty much everyone instinctively hates these exercises, and that is just so sad because it is actually crushing creativity. The exercise punishes creative thinking because you cannot make your own sentence in this. You cannot choose your own phrasing in this. No modern language teacher is using these things extensively or even calling them composition exercises because they're not composition exercises. Composition is when you're authoring something, when you have something to say. You have choice over what to say. So I'm going to suggest 4 powerful, easy, purposeful writing tasks which will not only boost your engagement in the language, but which will also help other people who are looking for input and interaction in Latin. You don't need a class or a teacher for these. You don't need to buy a book or a course. You just need a keyboard and a comment section. First, find any piece of Latin posted online that's appropriate to your level. This could be a YouTube video that you understand, or someone's audio recording of a chapter of a textbook, or it could be a post in Latin on social media. Anywhere that has especially a story-based resource that also gives you a comment box. That's what you're looking for. Here are 4 interactive writing activities that you can do immediately after listening to, watching, or reading that resource. Number 1, 2 truths and a lie. This is the easiest writing activity. You say, hey guys, which of these 3 statements is a lie? And then you write 3 statements in the target language, 2 of them true, 1 of them false. This is very easy to compose because you can actually directly copy 3 statements from your source material, change one thing about one of them, and boom, you now have an interactive activity. So let's do this now. I'm pulling up Luke Ranieri's recently dubbed video of velociraptors in Latin on his channel Scorpio Martianus. Let's see if anyone replies to it. I don't know if people are going to be weirded out by me writing this, but you never know until you try. If you see someone else's 2 truths and a lie activity, you hit reply and say which of those statements was the lie. An advantage of 2 truths and a lie is that multiple people can write their own 3 statements on the same source material without necessarily repeating each other. Although, if anyone does repeat each other, it's no big deal because meaningful repetition is something that's quite useful in getting reading fluency. Number 2, Vērum and Falsum. You just write a list of true-false questions underneath someone else's video or other content. This is very similar to 2 truths and a lie, but it's more open-ended because you can write as many or as few true-false statements as you want. And you can make them all true or all false if you want to mess with your audience's expectations. Also, it's very fun to write silly, obviously false statements. So I'll do this now. I'm going on Satura Lanx's recent video on how she started to learn Latin, and I'm writing, hey guys, here are some Vērum Falsum questions, true-false questions, if anyone wants to test their understanding. If you see someone else's Vērum Falsum questions in the comments and it hasn't been replied to, go ahead and hit reply and label which ones you'd go VF or Vērum Falsum. And maybe if you get something wrong, the original poster will reply and say, give you a clarification of your understanding. Interaction, maybe. Also, if you reply to Vērum Falsum questions with your answers, they could be helpful to someone who's less confident than you because they can now see an answer key to check their comprehension against. Number 3, questions in the target language. This is a little bit harder than writing true-false statements, but not by much. All you need is a list of question words in your target language and the knowledge of how to form a question. From there, you can turn any statement in your source material into a question simply by swapping a word or phrase out for a question word and moving that question word to the start of the sentence. Here's a list of question words in Latin.
Salve, salve, molta mihi loquendo.
And while we're at it, here's a list of question words in ancient Greek.
Ignos mihi, molta mihi discenda.
I'm going to write a list of Latin questions on this recent video by Alexios Gorsanos. If you see a list of target language questions in the comments section and it hasn't been replied to yet, you go ahead and hit reply and write your attempt at answering that. Oftentimes, this just requires you to reuse the sentences from the source material, which is great. And you're making an answer key for everyone else, which is really helpful. A third layer of interaction is to read someone else's answers and check if they're correct. And you can then reply and say that they're correct, or you can offer your corrections and suggestions. That's really helpful as well. Number 4, possible, probable, or you could call this activity Possibile, Crēdibile if you want to stay immersed in Latin. In possible, probable, you write, hey guys, how possible or probable are these statements? And then you write a set of inferential statements with varying shades of likeliness or unlikeliness. E.g., if the source material depicts Caesar attacking the Gauls, your statement could be Caesar values human life greatly. Caesar vitam humanam magni aestimat. This is harder to compose than true-false questions or closed questions because 1, it requires more creative thinking, and 2, it often requires you to use words that are not found in your source material. I'm going on the channel Musa Pedestris and I'm going to comment on her recent Latin cooking video. If you see a list of possible, probable statements written in the comments, you can reply with your opinion by saying possible, impossible, probable, or improbable next to each of the statements. Or if you want to stick in Latin, you could say possibile, impossibile, crēdibile, incrēdibile. And you can modify it with adverbs like maxime, maxime crēdibile. If you see that someone has already replied to a set of possible, probable statements, you can then read their answers and see where you might agree or disagree with them. And then you can reply to them in Latin, your target language, or your native language as you wish, saying why you disagree with them. Possible, probable is a subjective assessment, so people will naturally reach different conclusions. This activity tends to produce really interesting discussion of characters and motivations. These 4 writing activities are way better for your overall language development than struggling alone on artificial composition exercises. Composing for a purpose is not just more enjoyable for you, it's more useful to everyone else who also wants to interact in the language. I think if we committed to doing these interactive comment activities, we'd end up using the language a lot more than if we tried to whip ourselves into sustaining a writing habit that is isolated from all human interaction. Try it out yourself now. Watch this video of Paris choosing the most beautiful goddess and write your 2 truths and a lie activity in the comments below. Let's see how many activities we can create together.
Salve, salve, molta mihi loquendo. Ignos mihi, molta mihi discenda.